Princess Era finds herself torn between loyalty and truth as she discovers her husband Thorn and her father might be involved in the death of Sage's sister. Let's officially listen to today's werewolf story. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for your support. 47's Era. Tonight, my opportunity has presented itself through a serendipitous chain of events. It's been 2 days since my intimate encounter with Sage, and I've been testing the boundaries of my newfound influence. I am acutely aware that I am Sage's sole weakness, and despite the pleasure I derive from our night together, I must exploit this vulnerability. This evening, I made a calculated request to one of the guards, asking to swap a vegetable on my plate. She complied, albeit with visible irritation. Her replacement became engrossed in conversation just beyond my door, granting me a fleeting window of opportunity. In those precious seconds of neglect, I seized my chance and fled. Now I'm striding purposefully down the corridor, my posture erect and confident, attempting to blend in as if I belong here. The rebels are gathered downstairs for their communal dinner, leaving the upper floors deserted. I descend the stairs swiftly, my destination clear the exit that leads to the outside world. Once beyond these walls, I could lose myself in the forest, risking hypothermia in the night. But there's still some daylight left, which I intend to use to put as much distance between myself and this place as possible. If death awaits me out there, at least it will liberate me from this wretched existence. As I force open the heavy metal door, glancing over my shoulder to ensure I'm not being pursued, one thought crystallizes in my mind. I must escape Sage. The mate bond is too overwhelming, too consuming. If I remain, I fear I may succumb to the false ideologies he will inevitably try to instill in me. I banish these thoughts as I sprint into the dense forest, my footfalls leaving distinct imprints in the frost-covered ground. I'll need to find a river soon to obscure my trail. I'm aware that I'm using the mate bond as a scapegoat for my own weakness, but my feelings for Sage are all-consuming, driving me to the brink of madness. I march on briskly, arms wrapped tightly around myself to ward off the biting cold. I make considerable progress before nightfall envelops me, though the thick canopy above impedes the moonlight, hampering my progress. Time becomes an abstract concept as I trudge on. Eventually, as if materializing from thin air, I stumble upon a gravel road winding through the forest. Relief washes over me, nearly bringing me to my... I wait for what feels like an eternity before a vehicle passes. When one finally does, to my agent extraordinaire, Mylen Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And the driver offers to take me to Thorn's territory, which is surprisingly nearby. I hope that Sage will assume I've returned to my father, unaware of my true destination. But he's coming, he'll track me down eventually. As we approach Thorn's estate, darkness blankets the surroundings. Once, I yearned to escape this place, and now, I desperately seek refuge within its walls. I hastily thank my benefactor before rushing towards the entrance, as if Sage's shadow looms just behind me, ready to drag me back into the abyss. The guards block my path as I approach. "Princess?" one of them asks, his eyes wide with disbelief. I had simply vanished. I'm unsure if they knew of my abduction, though surely my father must have deduced as much, given the timing of the rebel attack. "Where's Thorn?" I demand, my voice laced with urgency. I cast a nervous glance over my shoulder into the darkness, shuddering. Logic tells me Sage couldn't have caught up yet, but I can't shake the unsettling feeling of being watched. "He's upstairs in his room," the guard informs me, ushering me inside and securing the massive double doors behind us. "Allow me to take you to the healer." I follow his gaze, noticing for the first time the torn fabric around my knee, revealing an ugly gash. I have no recollection of falling, my mind having been solely focused on survival in the frigid forest. It's just a graze. I'm fine. I dismiss his concern. The guard hesitates, clearly torn between his duty and my royal status. I am the princess. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Demanding to be brought to my husband. Who is he to deny me, even in my injured state? Get the prince. Now he growls to another guard. The coon man rushes off up the stairs, while the other guard regards me curiously. I was kidnapped by my personal guard. I tell him urgently. I know there are more guards around, but 1,000,000 doesn't seem like enough to protect me from Sage. Everything is okay now. You're safe, the guard assures me. I'm not safe. I'm not ever going to be safe, and I need to warn Thorn. I insist. My panic is causing my voice to rise, echoing through the grand foyer. They don't understand how serious this is. My freedom is on the line, and more importantly, their lives are on the line, and they don't seem to care. Miss, please calm down. We will protect you, he assures me, motioning to the weapon strapped to his hip. No, you don't understand, Era. I look up, seeing Thorn quickly making his way down the sweeping stairs, concern and disbelief written all over his face. He may have thought I was killed by the rebels if Sage wasn't my mate. I probably would be. I meet him at the bottom of the stairs, letting him grab a hold of me. I was kidnapped. By who? He looks down over me, noting my injury, his brows drawing together. I hesitate, but only for a second. Sage, my personal guard. He needs to know in order to make the right movements onwards. Sage isn't worth protecting, whether he is my mate or not. Thorn winces, already anticipating the answer. Sweeping the hand through his messy hair, I knew I didn't trust him. There's a rebellion going on. They're going to kill my father, if he isn't already dead. We will talk to him tomorrow. Stay here and relax. Grabbing my arm. He's irritated, but he's clearly sleepy, and massively underestimates Sage. He doesn't know how desperately my mate wants my husband dead. Wait, Sage is still a danger to us. I insist. He waves his hand dismissively. You're here now. You're safe. No, he knows this place. He won't struggle to get in. Has Thorn forgotten that Sage worked here? He will know that I told Thorn everything, so he has nothing to lose. He can walk straight in here and slaughter whoever he pleases, and there won't be anything we can do about it. Then I will protect you, he assures me, smiling loosely. I don't mean to offend you, Thorn, but Sage will kill you. And not just because he wants to get to me, I tell him coldly, trying to get him to understand how dire this situation is. But he's a prince and he's arrogant. He's not taking me seriously because he doesn't respect me, and he thinks I'm a woman gone crazy. I should slap him, but that will only make the situation worse. You've been spooked, Zara. Of course you're feeling anxious. He soothes, running his hand down my arm. I tug it away. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. You're not taking me seriously. You'll be safe in my room. He grabs my hand, so tight I can't trip away. He leads me up the stairs, leaving the guards to stand by the door and await their terrible fate. The moment I see the door to Thorn's room, I balk. That's a bad idea. I panic. If Sage finds me in your room, he grabs my shoulders, shaking me a little, a dark shadow passing over his face. Sage isn't coming. And Sarah, you're my wife, and I have a claim to you first. I am a prince, and he is nothing. I don't fear him. He drags me into the room, closing the door behind us. We are making a mistake. Let's just relax and try to get some sleep. He yawns, falling into the bed. I realize that he's still wearing his night clothes, having been awoken by my sudden appearance. It must be later than I thought. He stuffs his head onto the pillow, looking over me with a furrowed brow. Did he touch you while you were in there? He inquires gruffly. I swallow tightly, trying not to reveal anything with my expression. Oh, no. I breathe. I don't even want to think about what happened a few nights ago. If Thorn knew, he would probably demand a divorce immediately, which if I weren't in this situation, would be desired. He's obviously attracted to you, he mumbles, fluffing up his pillow. That's not why he kidnapped me. He's keeping me from going to my father and alerting him. I snap. This is why Thorn cannot learn that Sage is my mate. He will never take me seriously. But he definitely wants to. I sigh irritably. None of this matters. What matters is we'll be aware that I escaped, and he will be on his way here right now to kill you and take me back. My voice bordering on a yell. He gets under the covers. I'm not afraid of him. He's a coward. Is this door locked? I wrap my arms around myself. There are 3 guards outside. If he can get through the many more of them that are posted outside and downstairs, then I will be very surprised. He tells me through another yawn. Trust me, you're going to be surprised, but I won't be. Glancing at the door. I'm going to sleep. Feel free to join me whenever. He cuts the bed, grinning at me. I watch as he leans over to turn his lamp off, drowning the room in darkness. I let out a frustrated groan, collapsing into the chair in the corner of the room. There is no way I'm sleeping tonight. I need to be aware of everything going on around here without actually leaving the room. Sage isn't going to wait. He's a patient, calculated person, but he doesn't need to be right now. He can come in here and take me back as he pleases, and considering all the information I can impart, he's not going to wait. So I sit, waiting. Thorn falls asleep fast, leaving me in complete silence and darkness. I'm starving and exhausted from my trek, but I fight the urge to succumb to sleep. Soon enough, even my own fear of Sage appearing from the shadows does little to chase away my sleep, which captures me within seconds. I'm awoken sometime later by an itching feeling around my wrists. When I yank at them, I realize they are tied down. My eyes fly open, a gasp falling from my lips. I'm still sitting on a chair, but now I'm in the foyer, and opposite me is Thorn, whose head is slumped down, hands tied behind his back. Dread floods through me as I turn to look around me. Guards lie on the ground, red water pooling on the ivory floor in a gruesome puddle. My stomach clenches. They are dead. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The sound of boots come from behind me, a chill sweeping over my skin. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He comes into my sight, dressed in his old guard clothing, a dark smirk on his face. I'm 48. Word count 2067s are I draw in a short breath, training my eyes on Thorn. Is he dead? Sage stalks behind my husband, who shudders once, then starts to blink his eyes open. If I weren't bound to the chair by coarse rope, I think I would have collapsed onto the floor with relief. What's going on? Focusing first on me as he winces. My eyes trace a line of red water that travels down from behind Thorn's ear, down his neck to pool at his collarbone. He's been hit. He takes in the scene around him. His guards lay dead in pools of red water on the floor, which is a fate he may share with them very shortly. I know my mate. He is going to taunt him first. He's here, I hiss, nodding my head at Thorn. Unable to turn around to face the man who's about to put him through hell. I apologize, Ara. I'll release you soon, Sage assures me, coming back around to stand within both Thorn and I's eyeline. If you hurt him, I warn. Sage holds a single finger up, showing off those cold leather gloves that usually indicate that he's working. Why don't we talk before we get to that? Who are you? Thorn questions, glaring up at Sage with furious ire. He knows that Sage was my guard, but he's wondering who Sage truly is. That's not something Sage is going to divulge so simply. Sage doesn't respond. He just stares him down with the slightest curve to his lips. He works for the rebels. He commands them. I tell Thorn. I try to warn him. I knew this would happen, and Thorn made me feel as though I was going insane, that I was just being paranoid. And now, our lives are on the line as we wait for this dangerous man to decide what he wants to do to us. My guards will have you arrested and you will be charged, Thorn says, as if most of them aren't lying dead around us. Or I'll kill you. Are you both forgetting I'm the one with the knife? Sage pulls back his jacket slightly, drawing out a knife. It's stained with red water, making my stomach turn. Let him go. To my agent extraordinaire, Marilyn Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You've made your point. He shakes his head, pacing between the two chairs, hands seated in his pockets. I don't think I have. He muses. See, this isn't just about your marriage to Zara. And you know that, don't you? Thorn frowns, tugging at the rope. The whole left side of his neck is covered in red water that seeps from whatever wound Sage has caused to the back of his head. Rebels hate royalty, the prince mumbles. Sage isn't smiling anymore. There's more though, isn't there? I look between the two of them, trying to decipher what Sage is insinuating. Thorn looks petrified, and not just because of the knife Sage has slid back into his jacket. There's something he's hiding. I don't know anything. Thorn insists. Liar, Sage growls. You know about Ara's father's business, don't you? Thorn's eyes widen, matching my startled expression. He swallows thickly, looking at me. He doesn't respond to my questioning look, as my mind reels. My father doesn't have a business, he's a king. I know nothing, he says carefully. There isn't a single royal family that hasn't profited from it, who hasn't partaken in it. Sage sounds angry, but not in an explosive way. No, his anger is calm and deadly. This goes far deeper than Sage's resentment for me marrying Thorn, and how the prince has treated me. There's a deeper history that connects the two in a way that is far beyond me. My father may have, but I never. Thorn raises his voice so loud it makes me wince. He's desperate. Sage circles Thorn. There's a flare of panic in the prince's eyes as Sage disappears from his eyeline. Your father will pay. He adjusts his jacket, reminding me of the knife hidden from my view. You, Thorn, are young and stupid. The money you received to marry's ad was red water money, and you knew that. Yet you married her anyway. My father deals with that, I don't. Thorn is cut off as Sage grabs him by the collar of his shirt and punches him. I cry out as red water splatters against the marble floor from the sheer force of Sage's punch. He pulls away, Thorn's head bowed as he spits out more red water, groaning. Sage grabs the light-colored hair on the back of Thorn's head, pulling it back so he is forced to look into his eyes. Who died for that money? He demands harshly. Thorn starts desperately pulling at his binds. Although it's not use. I don't know. Tell me. Sage growls. He removes his hand from Thorn's hair, pulling out the knife. Horror paints itself over Thorn's face as Sage moves behind him again, pressing the knife to his neck. I don't know. I never knew their names, Thorn insists, squeezing his eyes shut. It's obvious to everyone in this room that Thorn knows what is being demanded out of him. I am utterly speechless, watching this painful exchange. Something terrible is happening, and has been happening, and I'm completely in the dark. But you knew of them, how young they were, where they came from, Sage seethes. I just knew they were girls, women, that's it. Sage presses the knife closer to Thorn's neck. They were taken from small villages, from families who couldn't fight back. They were lured in and then killed for the pleasure and amusement of royals like you. A cold feeling of dread begins to culminate in the pit of my stomach. I swear to you, I never participated. I knew only what I heard and I never asked questions. If I did, I would be killed. Thorn sounds beyond desperate now. He sounds guilty, and practically on the verge of tears. This is no light subject to be discussing when a knife is being pressed against his neck, ready to enact Sage's revenge. My sister is dead because you're a coward, Sage shouts. My breath catches in my throat. The one he claimed went missing. He said he didn't know where she was, and now he knows she is dead, and my father and Thorn are somehow involved. I didn't know. I'm sorry, Thorn exclaims hysterically. You're only sorry because there's a knife to your neck, Sage growls. He hasn't looked at me once. I feel like a faraway spectator who could do nothing but witness the horror of this moment. I don't want to intervene anyway. I want to hear Sage elaborate on what happened to his sister, and how Thorn and my father are involved. What do you want me to do? I'm sorry. I mean it. Please, Thorn begs, his eyes squeezed shut, sweat gathering on his forehead. The look in Sage's eyes is practically foul. However, instead of ending Thorn's life, he lets him go, tucking the knife away again. I gape at him. His self-control is unbelievable. Your part in this will come, he mutters. We should talk about Zara. My eyes widen. No, I don't want the attention back on me. Sage just revealed something horrific and I want to know more before he slaughters Thorn. Sage, I breathe, unable to find the words. Sage looks at me for only a moment before he walks back to where Thorn can meet his eyes. You want to know what's up? Zara is mated to me, a rebel. My husband, who has just been put through hell for the past couple minutes, suddenly pales. What? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Isn't it, Zara? Sage smirks at me. His anger from before vanished. It frightens me how easily he can settle his emotions and promptly hide them away. It doesn't matter. I want nothing to do with you. I grit out. Sage drags a chair over from the far wall, sitting down on it between Thorn and I. I know you want her in your bed. I know you fantasize about my Nate. Huh. He tilts his head to the side, daring him to respond. Thorn shakes his head. I swear I haven't. There's no more lying. Thorn, Sage taunts, bracing his elbows on his thighs. I wish he would look at me so he could see how disgusted I am by him right now. She is my wife. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I thought about sleeping with her. Yes, is that what you want to hear? Thorn snaps. Sage smiles. It's harmless to dream. I roll my eyes. We went from talking about something serious to humiliating Thorn. But Zara is mine. She is not yours, and she never was. And if you want to survive, you'll divorce her, he demands. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My mind returns to the day of my wedding. Sade was painfully calm about the marriage. He knew all along this threat would be made and that he would get his way. I can't. Thorn stutters. If we divorce so soon after the wedding, both him and I will be ruined. I could hardly care about my reputation anymore, since I'm not even sure I'm going to escape from Sage. But I know Thorn cares about his. And having a kidnapped wife only garners more sympathy for him. Yes, you can. Unless, of course, you want me to my pretty little mate in front of your precious minister and give him a reason to declare this marriage illegitimate. Sage stretches his long legs out, rolling his shoulders. He looks so casual and relaxed now, and yet somehow more deadly. A enthusiasm, a shadow passes over Thorn's face. You wouldn't. Or I could tell him you never consummated your marriage, Sage says with a shrug. I mutter a curse under my breath. He knows we didn't consummate the marriage because he was the one who interrupted it. Before Thorn could force me, who would he believe? The rebel or the prince? I could kill you now and save myself the trouble. Sage brushes some dust from his shoulder tiredly. Zara will be sufficiently ruined when the world learns about her father anyways. What good is being married to her? Annulling our marriage to a well-liked princess would ruin me. Of course, all Thorn cares about is himself. He's done nothing to get me out of this either. Sage seems just as unimpressed. And that's all that matters, doesn't it? I'll divorce her. But you cannot kill me, he eventually concedes. He lowers his gaze, not looking at me. It's a good thing too, because it wouldn't help the situation if saw my relief. Sage shifts his attention to me. What do you think, Zara? Should I kill him? My mouth dries. He can't seriously expect me to say, I want Thorn dead even if he's connected to Sage's sister's death. It's a life I don't want to be involved in taking. Spare him, please, I whisper. The weight of Sage's gaze carries so many unspoken words. His sister's death is somehow related to Thorn and the wealth he has accumulated. And yet here I am, wanting him alive. I can't let it be my word that causes Thorn to be killed. Burn the place to the ground. Burn the consequence of red water money, I say quickly. Sage blinks, surprised, while Thorn gapes at me. I'm also surprised, because I don't regret the words as they have come out of my mouth. Thorn is involved in something terrible. It needs to be brought down. Sage draws out his knife and cuts Thorn's binds. Run, Thorn. Run to your minister, then run as far away as possible, or I will track you down and kill you. Thorn nods frantically. He has no room to negotiate, and he's lucky he's leaving here with his life, regardless of fate of his estate. And you, Sage says, shifting his attention to me, are coming with me. 49 word count, 1750 his hour. This is bad, really bad. Sage has taken me back to the compound again, letting me calm down. I haven't slept, unable to stop replaying the events of the other night over in my head. Thorn is free. I'm free from him, although not free from Sage. But that is the least of my concerns. Sage's accusation rings in my head. His sister is dead, and somehow Thorn is involved, and so is my father. Did they kill her? My stomach churns at the thought. Rolling over in bed, I tuck my knees to my chest, wanting to sob. I have no reason to trust Sage, and yet I believe him. Seeing his expression, hearing the way he spoke has made it clear to me that whatever is going on is terrible. I just can't wrap my head around how my father is involved. The sound of voices drawing near has me sitting up. The guards that are usually posted outside my room don't speak much, and don't dare come in. Not like Sage did it strange to think that he once guarded my door as these people now do. I don't even know their names. Now Sage is too busy running this operation to waste his time keeping me from escaping. You're not going in there, are you? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, Feminine voice drills from the other side of the door. What is going on? Of course I am, another voice responds. By the sounds of it. He seems irritated, like he's in a rush and he's being distracted. You'll keep a clearer head if you stay away, the girl exclaims. Her voice almost sounds sultry. I wish I could see what she looked like, how close she may be lingering to my mate. I shake my head. What am I thinking? I shouldn't care. I've been in close proximity to her for months. I could handle the mate bond. Sage responds. Oh really, we talked about this. Sarah deserved redemption, and that is what she's going to get. Sage snaps. There's the sound of stumbling, like Sage pushed off this unknown girl. I grit my teeth. Is she trying to convince him to hurt me? Or is she jealous that his attention is on me so often? But does she deserve it? She questions. Sage pauses, but not as if he is considering what she said, but as if he is regarding this girl with what I hope is disgust. What's your game? You and I started something before you left. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. From first day you were there you changed. You didn't want me anymore. She sounds like she is pouting. My stomach aches a little. I shouldn't be surprised that Sage had a lover before he came to work for my father. I mean, I did too. It still makes me uncomfortable to think about. I didn't mean to hurt you, Sage says softly to the point I almost can't hear him. Zara is my weak point. She's special. I'm tired of pretending like she isn't. She sounds like more worth than she actually is. We agreed from the beginning that if Sarah was not involved with her father's business, then she would be spared, Sage growls. Knowing he always intended to kill me. Had my father so much as disclosed anything to me, then I would be dead by now. I swing my legs over the edge of the bed, leaning down in an attempt not to throw up. She's never going to forgive you, the girl insists, voice muffled through the door. This isn't about that. It's about keeping her safe. He sounds only slightly dejected. He knows that until he tells me what's going on, or gives me proof, I'm not going to trust him. In his voice alone I can hear how disappointed he is. And what about us? There was never an us, Sage tells her coldly, giving her no chance to misread his intentions. I will not justify how I feel about her, and what I'm willing to do to protect her. Got it? She grumbles, her disappointment and saddened even through the door. Good. Spread the word, Sage mutters. Sensing him incoming, I quickly lay down and roll over, closing my eyes to pretend as though I was sleeping. Sage doesn't need to know that I've been listening into his private conversation. The door opens, light blooming over me before it is quickly cut off. I roll back over again, blinking warily at Sage. Did I wake you? He asks tenderly. Doesn't matter. Rubbing my eyes to make it seem as though my sleep was disturbed. How are you feeling? He's been wary of me since we got back. He checks on me every hour it seems, trying to decipher my thoughts. I haven't felt much like talking, especially when I have no idea what I should be feeling right now. Hopelessly betrayed, lost and confused, I admit with a pitiful shrug. The thorn issue is dealt with. Zara, you are not tied to that monster anymore. Sitting on his usual chair in front of me. I'm grateful for the space between us. It makes it easier to think when his perfectly sculpted body, handsome face and thoughtful eyes aren't within my reach. My jaw clenches painfully tight. He isn't half the monster you are. Sage doesn't flinch. He understands where my eye was coming from. I had to be brash with him. I needed him to be scared. He explains, twisting a ring around his finger incessantly. You've ruined my reputation. Sage shakes his head grimly. He won't dare speak out. And you've been kidnapped. The people will be more concerned for you than worried about your corrupted nuptials. I hope he's right, but I somehow doubt it. Even so, if Sage is successful in taking out my father, then some kind of horror will be revealed and my name will be attached to it. Then I will be thoroughly ruined. In 3 days, I am going to reveal our plan. Once it has been completed, then you will be free. I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of the empty promise that I will soon find out. I swallowed tightly. But I'll always know who you are, and I will always know he is my mate. To our agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. No matter how far away I get from him, I will always know. It doesn't matter, Sage exclaims dismissively. Why? Because you're going to run, I'll never find you again. Trying to act as though that reality wouldn't hurt me. He shakes his head, reaching out to grab my hands. No. Because you're going to understand why this is being done, and you will not blame us for our actions. I pull away, wrapping my arms around myself. Yeah, okay. Rubbing a hand over his face. He doesn't look like he's slept much either. At least he's being kind and gentle now, seeing how he was with Thorn disturbed me. It reminded me of what he is truly capable of. Or you hate me regardless, and I'll back off. Meeting my gaze. His expression is pained. But Zara, what? I will never leave you alone. I'll never abandon you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. But it's firm. If there is anything I've learned about Sage, it is that he does not back down from a challenge easily. Especially involving his mate. I rest my hands over my stomach, feeling ill. Every time I speak to Sage, I feel conflicted. I want him so badly it hurts, and yet there is a chance all will be revealed and it won't excuse his actions. What is wrong with me? I breathe. He frowns. What? I lurch forward and off the bed, pressing my lips to his. He responds immediately, sensing my desire as he forces me back and onto the bed. My fingers wind through his hair as his tongue sweeps into my mouth, claiming me. I need to stop wanting him, giving in to him even when he isn't trying to seduce me. However, just as quickly as he answered my desires, he pulls away, putting a great deal of distance between the two of us. We can't, he exclaims through gasping breaths. It's not fair on you. I rest my palm on my sweating forehead, trying to make sense of what I'm doing. Why, you're right. He closes his eyes for a moment. I know I'm right. Soon you will learn about terrible things, and I cannot make another mistake of being with you when you don't know the full truth. He doesn't wait to hear my response, turning on his heel to barge out of the room. I fall back onto the bed, slapping my hands over my face. What a mess. At least Sage has some sense about him and backed off before I could tear his clothes of undermanned he have his way with me. I need to be more careful. I need to protect my heart for what is incoming. Voices outside grab my attention once again. This time they sound hushed, hurried. It's not Sage and the girl, but a group of people. Clambering out of bed, I ignore the thumping of my heart against my chest. Something doesn't feel right. Looking around the room, I note a glass half full of water. I grab it quickly, bundling it into a blanket before placing it on the floor. I stomp on it, over and over until I hear it shatter. Carefully I pluck the sharpest shard of glass from the lot before stuffing the rest under the bed. This may be nothing, but I don't trust these rebels. With a loud crash, the door to my room is kicked open, a group of rebels stalking in. They take one look at me and smile, their target right in front of them with nothing more to defend themselves than a pathetic shard of glass. And in their hands rope, tape and a hood to shove over my head. I brace myself. If I don't fight, I'm dead. 50-word count, 1981's era. I let them come to me first. Their faces are concealed by shadows, but I don't need to see them anyway. They are just more rebels who would rather kill me than risk allowing me redemption. The tallest one lunges for me first. Anticipating their attack, I slash the shard of glass along their arm in a similar fashion as with a knife. Sage's training rings in the back of my mind, giving me some confidence in my ability to get out of here. The rebel hisses in pain but barely flinches, still advancing on me. They manage to grab my arm in a firm grip, holding the glass away from themselves. Someone kicks me in the lower back, a jolt of pain accompanying me in my fall to the floor. I hadn't even realized someone had come up behind me. The rebel who kicked me climbs on top of me, trying to wrestle my arms behind my back while another readies the rope to wrap around my neck. With my cheek pressed against the cold floor, I try not to let my panic exhaust me. They really are going to do it. They are going to kill me. Twisting my arm, I manage to cut at the fingers of the rebel on my back. She fists a clump of hair in the back of my head, pulling it back. I wonder if Sage will still think you're pretty when you're dead. She seethes in my ear. The familiarity of her voice drenches me in cold, overwhelming dread. It's the girl Sage was talking to outside my door. Gritting my teeth, I muster all my strength to roll over. I only roll onto my side, but it's enough to disrupt her sitting position, sending her toppling onto the floor. Someone else grabs me, but when I turn to slice them with the glass, they let me go. That must have been a deep hit. I can barely see anything as I scramble up, but I know someone else is lunging for me. They slam me against the door, the sound making a horrible thump. I cough as the breath is squeezed from my lungs. As hands reach for my neck, I slam my knee into their stomach, listening to them groan. I do it again, and then another time until their grip loosens. I don't want to kill these people. I could stab this shard of glass into his neck and this would be over, but I can't bear it. I fumble with the handle, managing to shove the door open. I stumble out into the hallway, knowing I'm being pursued by the girl. I don't turn to face her, opting instead to run as fast as I can down the hallway. If I stay a moment longer, either she will kill me, or I'll kill her. The sounds of her footsteps cease quickly as I pace down the stairs, practically flinging myself around every corner. She knows that now I've escaped there is no chance for them to finish me off. All of a sudden, I slam into a body. The impact sends me hurtling into the wall. I nearly keep running until I see it's Sage, looking at me for a moment like I'm a complete stranger. He blinks as he registers it's me. What's going on? He questions, looking over me. His eyes flare wider as he takes in the sight of me clutching a shard of glass, red water dripping from the wound it has cut into my palm and fingers. I was attacked, I tell him. I sound numb, shock still gripping me. By who? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Your people. I motion with my good hand back up the stairs, terrified that they may come down to face me again. With Sage here, though, they don't stand much of a chance. He sobers from his shock, stepping forward. Carefully he raises my hand, plucking the glass out. I wince, the pain slowly starting to bloom as the shock swears away. Come. I'm getting you away from there, he murmurs, forehead creasing as he examines the wound. I can see the conflict in his eyes. He has chosen to get me to safety instead of following up on the rebels who hurt me. Keeping true to his word, Sage did get me out of there. He had my hand quickly bandaged before hurrying me into a transport, driving me away from the compound. We traveled for at least 3 hours. Most of the time I slept, exhausted from the shock and the adrenaline which finally diminished. I could have thrown myself out the door of the transport and made a run from it. But I don't have it in me anymore. I've fought enough. Sage shakes me awake as we arrive, encouraging me out. I follow him, my legs weary as I register that early hour in which we are awake. The air is fresh, breathing some life back into me as I'm led up sturdy wooden steps and into a house. I blink as a light is turned on. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylen Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I gasp out. I hadn't even realized, but Sage has brought me to my family's lake house. Him and I visited here months ago. It feels like a lifetime, when I thought he was nothing more than my personal guard. It seems he still takes his duties very seriously. It's a familiar place for you, he notes, only letting go of me when he's sure I won't collapse. And no one will come here. Seeing a space I once adored, once shared with family in such a delightful way, nearly cripples me. It takes all my courage not to collapse into a fit of tears, wishing for a simpler time. So what now? I breathe. I need to focus on something other than my crushing emotions. I need to focus on Sage, and what is going to happen next. He turns to me, his expression blank, but his eyes are filled with fear, sadness and dread. I'm going to tell you everything, and from there, you may make your decision, he tells me. There's an uneasiness to his tone that stirs something up within me. He knows this is going to be bad. He knows that this information will force me to decide whether I want him or my father. Swallowing thickly, I look in the reflection of the windows, seeing myself. What choice do I have? Reaching up to touch my face. I don't remember being hit there, but a bruise is starting to form. Sage sits himself on one of the couches, motioning for me to rest on the other. I oblige him, pulling a fuzzy blanket over my legs. You can choose to support me in what I'm going to do, or you can choose to condemn me. Either way, I understand. This is it. This information is going to change my life. All right then, tell me. He holds my gaze, never breaking eye contact. Quite a few years ago now, my sister went missing. At the time, I was a mercenary who didn't spend much time at home and cared little for anything other than the money I was making for my family. I nod, already knowing this information okay. When my sister disappeared, I knew something was wrong immediately. She was a kind, soft soul, but she was also incredibly naughty. It wasn't her fault. My mother spoiled her, but her open heart was constantly open for manipulation. He pauses, a muscle in his jaw ticking. I may not trust Sage yet, but his love for his sister was real. The guilt he carries with him is one of the only emotions I am sure about when I look at him. Really, and. So, when she vanished, I knew she wouldn't leave Mother behind. And because she was speaking to an older gentleman in the village town, I figured he had something to do with it. I watch him laces his fingers together, trying to restrain an old, lasting anger. Did he? I ask breathlessly. Oh yes. I learnt much later that he had seduced her. He had lured her away to an entirely different part of the land that I knew nothing about. As I was trying to find her, I came to learn about a king who had connections to the man who was involved with my sister. His dark eyes sweep over my face, seeing if I'm understanding what he is inferring. Yes, your father, he mutters grimly. On the surface, this king had an excellent reputation. However, I started digging a little deeper, talking to the right people. It was then I learned about a sinister truth that my sister likely got herself involved in. Nausea bubbles in my stomach. I clutch it, trying not to be sick as I begin to understand where this story is heading. Just tell me. Sage draws in a deep breath, his eyes fluttering closed for a moment as he braces himself. When he opens them again, they're cold. Your father owns a business in which he allows very wealthy people to come and do terrible, hideous things to innocent people. They bid on them, then torture and kill them as they please. It takes a long second of staring at Sage's face to comprehend what he is telling me. Business. Killing an old memory suddenly emerges from the back of my mind. A woman came to me when I was outside the manor walls, telling me that my father was responsible for her missing child. What? Why would anyone do that? I whisper, horrified. I believe him. I believe Sage. There are some very sick people in this world, he tells me. I spent a while hunting those down who actively participated in your father's business, taking their lives far more swiftly than they deserved. But eventually I realized I needed to go after the person who created the business in the first place. I stand up, still holding my stomach. I feel sick. Every rebellion member experienced a loved one falling victim to the horrors of your father's business. It is why they are struggling to trust you, he tells me softly. But that does not mean that those that tried to hurt you won't be punished. I pace back and forth, needing to expend some anxious energy. I swear I know nothing about this. I've never known my father to be evil, let alone have an entire business based on it. My father has always been secretive with his personal affairs. What he does after dinner is beyond me, and honestly I never cared. Now it seems clear that while I peacefully slumbered, innocent people were being tortured and murdered by a man I thought I loved. Sage stands, grabbing my forearms, forcing me to look at him. I don't believe your father actually partakes in what he sells. He merely collects the money, which is just as much a crime. So you're going to kill him, yes? Not just because of my sister, or his other victims, but because there are many more that will be harmed for letting him remain alive. He insists. I can tell he is concerned for my reaction as he scans my face, fingers trembling against my skin. Do you object to this? I need evidence. I need to know for certain that I am not being tricked, that this isn't part of another, bigger agenda. If you're right about this, I breathe. Then, I don't object. 51 word count, 2201's error. I walk through the manor doors, shoulders back, chin tilted up. The guards stare in wonder and confusion, making to say something, but I wave them off. I don't want to fuss. Get my father. I tell one of them, the nod, rushing off toward his office. It's early evening and I'm finally returning home. I spent my childhood in this home, and now it just feels vast and empty, void of everything that once pleased me. Sage and I spent the whole day coming up with a plan for tonight. I've come here to find evidence of what Sage has alleged. Not even a minute later, my father is rushing down the stairs toward me. Only a day ago, I would have rejoiced at seeing my father. I may have felt overcome with emotion, grateful to have been free from the rebels. Now I feel nothing but repulsion. Trying to sound relieved, although it comes out rushed and a little rehearsed. Zara, oh my baby, you're home. He ushers me into a hug, holding me close. I let him, fighting the urge to make up an excuse to pull away. I escaped. I tell him. He looks over me, expecting injury, or maybe some evidence of being detained. Thankfully the rebels aren't barbaric, choosing to lock me in a room rather than tie me down with rope. Van who? Tu es agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The rebellion. I'm not sure how else to explain it without giving away key information that could lead him there. Sage did for not tell you. That fool ran off. He hasn't been heard from in days, he mutters, shaking his head. Oh, I rubbed the back of my neck. It seems like he took Sage's advice. Father rubs a hand down my arm, giving me a sad look. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but he has asked for an annulment of your marriage. I raise my brows. Thorn folded to Sage's influence immediately, which isn't a surprise. I don't think he ever actually wanted to be married to me. He just suffered from the same obligations I did. Not anymore, though. That's not going to be my life. I can't control his actions. I sent him news, quietly concealing my relief at not being connected to that man any longer. He took all the money I gave him for marrying you two. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Father mutters, shaking his head. I nearly laugh. He claimed under Sage's intimidation that he had nothing to do with my father's business, but him taking the money with him shows how little he cares about the victims. Of course he did. But you, are you unharmed? He looks genuinely relieved, which isn't a surprise. I know my father loves me. I presume it's why he left me out of the business, because he knew I would turn against him. I'm fine. No one touched me, I assure him. My mind unintentionally falls back to the night Sage and I spent together. I don't think it would help my story if anyone came to learn about that. And they let you go. No, I escaped, I say quickly. Father looks at me for a moment, before he smiles. Maybe it's the training he ordered I partake in with Sage that convinced him. Previously he would never believe I had what it takes to escape from captivity. My brave girl, he exclaims. Your mother would be proud. My stomach aches at the thought of my mother. I know she would have had nothing to do with my father's sins, and would have condemned him. He truly has lost himself since her death. I really miss her. I breathe, fighting back the emotions that threaten to surface. I need to concentrate on what must be done tonight. Me to Kid. Why don't we get you to the healer? He encourages, gesturing toward the stairs. I shake my head, knowing that if I walk into the infirmary, I'm going to be stuck there for hours while Father's favorite nurse takes her time examining every inch of me to his satisfaction. I'm fine. Seriously. I got out. No injuries. I'm all good, I assure him. Do you need something to eat? Sun rest. He doesn't seem to know what the best course of action is. Unsurprisingly, he hasn't apologized. He knows what the rebellion wants. He knows that he brought Sage into this place, and a god is the reason I was captured. Some rest will be great. Good, because tomorrow I want to hear everything you know about that rebellion. Thinking he's finally going to be a step ahead of them. Too bad he isn't going to learn anything new about them. They kept me in a dark room. I didn't learn anything, tell me tomorrow, sweetheart. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Then we can work on finding you another titled man who won't run away from their marriage with you. He tells me, as if the thought of that would please me. He knows how I feel about a political marriage, but I'm not here to fight him on it. I'm not ruined. Feigning a hopeful smile. This is Thorn's fault, not yours. The people will see that, he affirms. I get the feeling that everything is going to change soon. I haven't yet confronted the thought about what my life is going to look like when this all blows open. I get a feeling that neighboring kingdoms will not approve of this, and will demand my father step down from his position as king. Which will leave me without title. I'll be free. No, oh it will. I will crush this rebellion mercilessly and all this chaos will subside. He tells me, his eyes lighting up at the idea of such a triumph. I hope so. I mumble, averting my eyes. He pats my shoulder. Don't look so down. Those monsters that took you will pay. I nod numbly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Good night. I make my way upstairs as quickly as I can make look natural. Some of the tension dissolves from my shoulders as I take in my old room. Despite hating my father and the money that built this place, I still love and will miss this room. Letting out a long breath, I sweep my hair back off my face. I let about an hour pass before I leave the room again. It's getting late, and father will have retired to his room for sleep by now. There's only one place I can think of that may have information on what father is doing. Sage has scoped out most of the house where he worked here, and claimed he didn't find anything. But he doesn't know this place like I do. Trotting down the stairs, I make my way into the servant wing of the home. It's dead silent since father's paranoia led to him restricting the amount of staff working here. I look down at the hairpin between my fingers, knowing I'm about to cross a line I haven't dared to before. I find the door, pausing in front of it. Many years ago my father locked this room for good. He claims he doesn't go in here, but I have suspicions that he uses this as a place to store important documents, as everyone is morally obligated to never step foot within it. Including me, even though it's my mother's belongings that are in there. It doesn't take much to pick the lock with my hairpin. Summoning a deep breath, I slip inside, bearing myself for the sight of all of my mother's personal things that father couldn't bear to give up. I've seen all this stuff before, but a lump gathers in my throat as I look around. Old, dusty sheets over the bigger items, but my eyes brush along what was her vanity, some of her jewellery and personal effects sitting there, completely untouched. Ignoring the burn growing behind my eyes, I concentrate on the rest of the small room. Sure enough, there are plenty of father's own items here. I concentrate on his old mahogany desk, throwing the drawers open, sifting through the myriad of aging paperwork. Most of it is generic, although some are financial statements that I could comb through find some evidence of unaccounted for money. I don't have time for that tonight. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nelben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. So I settle for stuffing a few into my pockets. With nothing more to be found at desk, I concentrate on a few sagging cardboard boxes that are messily taped shut. Tearing the tape back, I peer into them. Clothes. A lot of them, seeming to mostly be feminine in appearance. I pull out a dress, running the cotton material through my fingertips. My stomach twists into an uncomfortable knot. I don't recognize any of these. It would put me at ease if these were clothing from my childhood that he had saved, but I have never seen anything like this before in my life. To my horror, I even find a few servant outfits from many years ago. Kicking it away, I steady myself. This could be nothing. My legs tremble beneath me as I stand, wiping my hands down my side as if it could rid me of the sin of what I may be uncovering. The boxes next to it are also filled with haphazardly packed clothing, all mostly female. I opt next for a smaller plastic container, bracing myself before I pull back the lid. Jewellery. It's packed full of it, of necklaces, rings and bracelets. Again, none of it I have ever seen again. I run my fingers through it, listening to it rattle against the plastic. Do any of these belong to Sage's sister? To the woman whose child went missing after coming to work here? I press the lid back down, carefully placing it back exactly where it was. My gaze slowly shifts to a tall-looking object on top against the wall, covered in a grimy sheet. My heart feels heavy just looking at it, as if it emits a terrible aura that haunts me. With slow, purposeful steps, I approach it, reaching out. The sheet is stiff beneath my fingers as I pull it back, letting it drop to the floor. Underneath is a large portrait that is nearly as tall as me, its front facing the wall. I can already feel the sensation of tears slipping down my cheeks as I wrap my hand around the gilded frame, pulling back to see the front. I gasp at the sight of it, instinctively stepping back. The portrait falls back, clattering down onto the concrete floor. My hands fall to my face, covering my mouth as I let out a horrified sob, staring back at the expert depiction of my father's painted eyes, at how they stare back at me. Nausea violently claims me as the full extent of the painting hits me. Forcing it down, I quickly pull the painting back up, ignoring my tears, at the disturbed dust that now clings to my cheeks. The sheet quickly follows, and then I'm out the door, slamming it behind me. Are you all right? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I turn, seeing a servant girl sticking her head out her room. She rubs her eyes groggy, half aware of my emotional state. I'm fine. Go back to bed, I tell her shakily. Her questioning follows me down the hall, but I ignore it, rushing upstairs to my room. The moment I'm behind the door, I stumble into the bathroom, barely making it to the toilet before I throw up. With my eyes squeezed shut, I see the image of the painting swimming in my head, taunting me with its graphic, horrifying nature. It was my father, sitting upon the throne I know so well. I often would venture into the throne room as a child, wishing to see what I would one day be sitting on as queen. In the painting, father sat in his usual position on the throne, his back straight, crown glittering golden atop his head. Kneeling on the floor beside him were two girls. One's head leaned against his left leg, her red water gushing down from her neck, drenching her whole without clothes body in it. The other girl's head was bowed, her tear-streaked face and look of terror so painfully apparent. Her bare skin was covered in dark bruises and lashes. Even though it is a painting, its detail is horrendous. This didn't emerge from someone's imagination, this was a moment captured in time. Once I'm finally done retching into the toilet, I stand warily, washing my mouth out before numbly sitting upon the edge of my bed. How am I going to tell Sage? I look toward the window, which is partially open, a snow-laced breeze drifting in, soothing my burning skin. He will be here any moment. Now I wait. 50 to word count, 20 to 57's error. Moments later, a figure emerges at the window, clambering through. Watching Sage duck his head under the glass, snow dusting his shoulders and hair. I admire the ease at which he climbed up the trellis considering the amount of times I have fallen from it. He removes his cloth mask, breath clouding in front of me as he meets my gaze. His expression immediately softens. Hey, are you okay? I look down at my hands, unable to face him. This is the most horrifying discovery I have ever made, and I am still reeling from it. I know. He's crouched in front of me in an instant, grabbing my hands in his gloved ones. The ice still lingering on the fabric burns at my skin, but I welcome the distraction. What happened? He asks gently. I found something. Bad, I tell him, fighting past the lump in my throat to say it. I feel so stupid. How many years was this going on and I never knew about it? Sage allowed me to hate him for weeks, trying to protect me from the horror that I would ultimately have to face. What was it? He sounds reluctant to hear it, knowing what it pertains to. A portrait of my father with victims. I breathe, fighting back the nausea. His comforting grip on my hand slips a little, his expression shifting from concern to distaste in a second. Oh, it was bad. Clearly it was depicting something that really happened. The image of it still staining my memory. I fear that when I close my eyes tonight, it will chase me all the way into a sleepless night. Sage frowns. Did you destroy it? No, I just left it. I don't want my father to find out I'm looking into his business. I tell him. He nods, letting out a deep breath. Slowly he stands, sitting next to me on the bed. He's struggling to hear his, considering what his sister went through, but he is trying to keep a brave face for me. So you believe me now? Yes, I believe you. I would feel embarrassed if it weren't for the crushing weight of disgust that still shrouds me. I'm sorry I doubted you. He draws my hand onto his lap, kissing it softly. Hey, it's okay. You had no reason to believe me. I found clothes too. And jewelry I break off, my other hand clutching my stomach. He's been holding it all. Sage growls. He stands again, starting to pace. There's months' worth of pent-up energy in him, fighting to be taken out on my father. I can tell he's struggling with the fact that my father is under this very roof with him right now. I can take you there, if you want to find something of your sister's. I don't know if it would be there, but if it means anything to you. He holds his hand up, cutting me off. I wouldn't want to see that. Intrigue extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He turns away, burying his hands into his hair. I want to comfort him. I'm just not sure how. I feel dirty, like I'm attached to this. We are going to put a stop to this. Why don't we take my father down now? I offer Nandi, motioning to my door. I haven't confronted the thought of my father being killed yet. He is the last family member I have left, and yet I don't know him or his true nature. He is a monster, who has contributed to the lost lives of many. Why should he continue to live when they cannot? We can't. Not until we know where this business is based, he mutters, wringing his hands. You haven't found it yet. We thought it was in here, but I haven't found any evidence of that, he explains, shaking his head. The snow has melted, dampening his hair. No, it won't be here. He may be bald, but he isn't stupid. Father goes away often. I'll find out where. The thought that these places that he visited may be related to this horror only contribute to my nausea. I often celebrated when he left, as I would not have to be subjected to degrading dinners or social obligations. I was so blind, so stupid. Would I shake myself from my thoughts? Sage is staring at me. His anger has melted, replaced with admiration. I'm so proud of you, my beautiful, stunning mate, he murmurs, grabbing my wrist to tug me up, nearly crushing me as his arms band around me. Proud of me. I don't feel worthy of his love, of his kindness. Despite everything that happened to his sister, he has been looking out for me since the beginning. I just want to be with you. I hate this, I say into his chest, clutching the fabric. He pulls back, holding my face between his hands. Once I get my revenge, you're all mine. The thought of that starts to fill the void that dread that's carved into me. Unless there is a life with my mate, I don't want to wait another moment. Bathe with me. I need to wash this horrible day off me. Intrigue extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He waits patiently on the bed as I start to fill the bath, pouring some lave and scented salts into the water. I glance back over my shoulder, head bowed, peeling the gloves off his hands. It's strange, seeing you back in this room when you're not my guard, I say through the bathroom door. He is dressed so similar it floods me with memories. My body yearns for that time. Sage was just my guard, that there was something more between us. Now I see a broken yet strong man who would do anything to avenge his sister. I was hiding a lot from you. And not just about the rebellion. Raising his head to look at me. Getting the sense I know what he is referring to. Oh yeah. The cold grip of sadness melts from his eyes as something else sparks in his eyes. Each time I came into this room, I wanted to rip your clothes off and have you against every piece of furniture. Even if I hated who built the place, he tells me. I breathe in deeply, trying to maintain my composure. Just hearing him say that satisfies a deep part of me that hated the way I so desperately yearned for him at the time. I wanted that too. Although you wouldn't give me what I wanted, I remind him, entering the room again. He watches as I slowly remove each piece of my clothing, letting it fall to the floor. He doesn't move until I'm completely without clothes. Then he starts removing his own. It felt wrong to be with you under such false pretenses. I wanted you as my mate, who knew everything about me, he explains. I raise my brows, remembering our night together before everything was revealed. And yet I don't have as much strength as I thought I did. Rubbing the back of his neck. Eventually I couldn't resist you anymore. I had to have you. I'm happy to know I'm so alluring. His eyes darken as they trace my body. Most definitely. He finishes removing his clothing before joining me in the bath. The water is deliciously hot and smooth, relaxing my tense muscles immediately. I let out a long sigh, the steam billowing around me. For a while we just sit in silence, facing each other. The quiet is peaceful, but it is also haunting. Despite having an excellent view of my stunning, without clothes mate, dark thoughts press at the edge of my consciousness, demanding attention. Can I ask something that is going to ruin the mood? His brows draw together. What was your sister's name? He shifts uncomfortably. Lyra. When the time is right, I'm going to ask my father if he knows the name. It won't mean anything to him. I'm sure there may have even been more than one Lyra that fell victim to one of his clients. But I need to ask. I'm going to talk to my father tomorrow, and I'm going to find out where he is conducting this business from. I assure him, trying to offer any kind of comfort I can. The rebellion, and I will do the rest after that. He's purposely being ambiguous. The rebellion has something planned, and I would be smart to avoid asking questions. And then what? Sage adjusts, sweeping his hands through the water. What do you mean? What will happen with us? I'm almost too scared to ask, my voice coming out barely above a whisper. It depends. Am I still public enemy number one in your eyes? His entire vibe shifts, relieved to no longer be speaking about my father and his business. I let out a long sigh. I suppose not now that I know what my father was doing. He smiles weakly. I'm glad you trust me now. My heart flutters. There's a crack in his strong F8, his relief palpable. I can't even imagine how hard it was to know I was his mate and not be able to do anything about it. He couldn't tell me about my father, and had to watch me marry someone else as the rebellion he led struggled to secure their plan quick enough to stop it. That would have broken me. Looking back, I wish I could have told myself to trust you. But after learning so suddenly about the rebellion and well, it's my father. It wasn't easy to consider that he could be a terrible person since he raised me after my mother died. I admit, resting my head back. You had every reason not to trust me. I hated lying to you. He pauses, swallowing uncomfortably. The moment I realized you weren't involved, I wanted to tell you everything. But my hands were tied. If I had a sibling who went through what Lyra did, I would be doing everything to get revenge. He bows his head, looking down at his hands submerged under the water. Still, you're my mate. I want to shake him, to steal away that guilt. But I know what it feels like. I wish I had made different choices. This was a complicated situation. I don't blame you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He smiles weakly, shrugging. He rarely seems lost and broken, and yet he is here, willing to show me another side of him. So, do you have an answer to my question? Once the rebellion is done with your father, there won't be any rulers here. Not for a while, he says tentatively, alluding to a horrible fate that will befall my father. I shake my head a little to banish the thought of his gruesome death. I assumed so. Sage leans forward, seizing me with the intensity of his gaze. The last thing I want is to take away your title, but it is unlikely the people of this territory will accept you after everything comes out about your father. I lost my title where he sold me off to Thorn. I remind him, and I don't want this. When I was a little girl, I dreamed of taking my father's crown and ruling. He had plans to marry me, often pass the land to my future husband. He never told me that he didn't want me, a female, to rule here, but now I understand his true intentions. Are you certain? I am terrified of what my life will look like after this. Being a princess is all I've ever known, but I'm also excited, in a way, I admit. Sage smiles at that, grabbing my hands. I'll take you anywhere you wish to go. We will live any life you like. What about your mother? My mind flashes back to her in that bed, Rue, and after losing her daughter. As long as I can provide her with money, I will be happy. She is well cared for, and if I'm near her, I fear I will only contribute to her illness. He swallows his sadness, trying to paint a brave smile. His problems with his mother will take time for him to overcome. There is something I understand. After losing my mother, and yet in Sage's situation, I couldn't comprehend how to deal with. So I focus on him, our future. I want to travel. I want to see places my father never would have let me. Then we travel, for as long as you want. I'm so pleased by the thought that I don't even mind the cooling water we lay in. This is the first time in a long time that I'd been excited about my future, even if we have to get through this next terrible part. Sage doesn't shift his attention from me, demonstrating how sure he is about our future. We are doing the right thing. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I nod, pushing away the thought of my father, concentrating instead on the victims of his crime. I know I trust you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.